Okay, this is a fascinating story about a bill that just got passed in Tennessee. Tennessee Republicans have just passed a law forcing high school health teachers to tell students that there is a right order for things they need to do if they want to live a successful life. There's a 4-step checklist that kids have to follow if they want the best chance for success later in life. Seriously. And it's called the Success Sequence Act. And this is the headline from a Chattanooga Times Free Press. Success Sequence Bill passes Tennessee House. It now heads to the governor's desk for the signature. So what is the success sequence? If you had to come up with a list of 4 things you got to do to be successful in life, what do you think they would be? Because again, Republicans in Tennessee have just approved a 4-step checklist that kids have to be taught in school for how to be successful. And whatever you are thinking you got to do, it's not this list. Okay, let me show you what the list is. Here is the bill. This is the Success Sequence Act. There we go. Let's look at what's on this list. Success sequence means a method by which a person completes the following in the following sequence. Letter A, you got to obtain a high school diploma or a high school equivalency credential. So graduate high school or get your GED. You got to do that. That is part 1. Part 2, you got to enter the workforce or go to college. You have to. After high school. Okay. Number 3, enter into marriage. And number 4, have children. And really, it's C and D that are the real issues here. Because, it's good if you graduate high school. And if you can't for whatever reason, good for you for getting your GED later on. That is a good thing. And yes, you should go to college. But if you want to go to a trade school, that's fine. If you want to start directly into work or you go into the military or something, I get that too. Those are fine. That doesn't mean you're guaranteed success. But yeah, if you do those things, you're probably setting yourself up to be better off in the long run. But then enter into marriage, then have children is just funny to me because the government's telling you this is what you need to do. And if you don't do this in this order, we're out to get you. Like you're screwed is what they are saying. Like the implication is that if you don't do one of these things or you do them out of order, it's some kind of problem. And in case you're wondering, is this some sort of Project 2025 thing? The answer is hell yes. This is actually a bill that was drafted by the Heritage Foundation, which is the group behind Project 2025, and it was sponsored in Tennessee. One of the sponsors was State Senator Janice Bowling, who is one of the people who spread the right-wing conspiracy theory that falsely claimed kids were dressing up as furries and using litter boxes in classrooms. Like just the dumbest Republicans in a party full of really bad people. And again, I know I've said this before, but there is a reason some classrooms have litter boxes. And it's not because kids want to use them because they think they are cats or dogs. It's because in the case of a school shooting, if you can't leave the classroom to go to the bathroom, it might be useful to have a litter box in the classroom so that you're not stinking up the whole place. It's the saddest reason to have a litter box in there. But the right-wing Republicans have spread this lie about it, and those are the people sponsoring this bill. So why are they pushing this bill? Here's what Janice Bowling, the furry lady, said. Some children are not privileged to recognize that or live within that. Some kids don't understand that you're supposed to graduate and then get a job and then get married and then have kids. And so in these classes, these children will be given this key to success. Republican proponents argued the so-called success sequence could help lift people out of poverty. Which, again, part of me wants to laugh at that because if any of you have kids, that's the fastest way to lose your money outside of gambling. Like if you want money, don't have kids. What are you doing? But okay, let me give you the best case scenario here. Okay, if you graduate high school and college, or you have a steady, stable job, good for you. If then you decide, you know what? I'm comfortable. I know what I'm doing with my life. now I'm ready to get married. Okay. And then you're like, you know what? My partner and I are doing really well. We're both healthy. We're ready to have kids, and you want to do that? Fine. There's nothing wrong with that path. But implying that this is the one thing these are the four things you got to do if you want to be successful is just ridiculous, because none of those things are a key to success. They are ingredients that might help. But obviously, plenty of people skip items on that list, or they reorder the steps in their own life for their own reasons, and they do just fine. And there are plenty of people that do all four of those things in that order, and they are miserable. Like, that's why this list is stupid. It's not that going to college and getting married and having kids is bad. It's that not doing those things is not bad either if you don't want to. Like, what they are ignoring here is, what are the root causes that lead to a better chance for success in life, right? That's what you want kids to have. Give them a good foundation so that they can go off and do whatever they want to. And they're ignoring that. For example, what happens if you graduate high school, get an apprenticeship, maybe with a relative, and then you marry your high school girlfriend, and then you impregnate her when you are 19? That is a thing that does happen. And they followed the formula perfectly. But those people may not have a lot of life experience. They barely know each other. They barely know themselves. They probably don't have a lot of money saved up in case of emergency. Maybe the jobs that they are training for, or at least the guy is not the job he's going to want or be able to have down the road. I don't think that's setting him up for success. Meanwhile, if there's a woman who decides, I'm going to stay single, I'm going to focus on my career, I'm going to spend my 20s and 30s dating around and sleeping around, and I'm going to travel and I'm going to save my money, and then, hey, I met someone I want to marry. And by the way, that guy has a child from a previous relationship, but I love that child, and we're going to form a family together. I would argue that person is way more positioned to have a successful future, because some of the biggest concerns that people have, money and health and self-awareness, have been satisfied. So there are exceptions to this rule in every direction. That's the point. A lot of this depends on how much support do you have from your extended family? What's the job market like? What hopes and dreams do you have for the future? But that's the point here. There isn't a pathway to success. But this bill suggests that there are, and it lays it out in numerical order as if this is a checklist you just need to run through. And along the way, they ignore all the reasons someone may or may not actually be successful. Like, one of the things it says in this bill, and let me go back to this bill, because if you look at the whereas clauses leading up to why this bill is so important, check out what they say right at the top here. This is the beginning of Senate Bill 471. Whereas couples who have children within marriage have higher family incomes and lower poverty rates than their unmarried counterparts. And let's just stop there for a second. I'm sorry, I want to go to the next one here. Where's the other one I wanted to show you? Look at this one. Whereas children raised in stable, married parent families are more likely to excel in school and generally earn higher GPAs than children who are not. All of that ignores how people with stability in their lives have the luxury of getting married when they're emotionally ready for it. And they can have kids when they're prepared to take care of those kids. And they have the resources to give their kids an environment where they can actually focus on school rather than having to come home after school and go to work somewhere all day. If you have the resources to do these things, yeah, your kids are going to be better off. And I know a bunch of you are thinking oh, this is the correlation does not lead to causation. Correlation does not imply causation. Yeah, none of these Republicans took that message. They never learned it. This is another one. Look at this whereas clause over here. Whereas children not raised in a home with married parents are twice as likely to end up in jail or prison before reaching 30 years of age. Okay, let's assume that's true. That doesn't mean the solution is shove two people together and say, well, you better get married for the sake of the kids. That's not how you solve that. Like, like having the stability matters. Living in a home where married parents, think about this. If you're living in a home where there are married parents, but all they do is argue all the time, or both parents have to work multiple jobs to make ends meet, that is way harder for kids than living in a home with a single parent who is available for them in the evenings. Now, here's the thing. In Arkansas, instead of creating conditions for all children to have the best chance of success, however they define it later in life, these idiots are passing a checklist for kids to follow. And then they're patting themselves on their back for doing the bare minimum while ignoring everything that might interfere with someone's path to success. Right? Like if you're not successful, they're basically saying it's because you didn't listen to us and you didn't follow those rules, not because they fail to create an environment where everyone else could thrive. It's always your fault. It's never the Republicans' fault, right? They don't want people knowing that the simplest path to guaranteed financial success in life, for example, is to be born into a wealthy family. Like that one's going to help. Elon didn't get there on his own. His daddy owned an emerald mine. You know what I mean? You know what would actually help everyone in Arkansas be more successful or have the best chance of success later in life? Having access to free healthcare, having free childcare available to parents, having access to birth control so you don't have unwanted pregnancies, having a guaranteed income. But Republicans don't want to do any of that stuff because they don't give a shit about your success. They pass this bill because it makes them feel better, not because it's going to help your life. And in fact, you know what else is interesting about this bill? You know what else they did during this session? They had a chance to sponsor universal pre-K, and they said, hell no. Why would we want to do that? That might actually help families. We're not interested in doing that. So they shot down the universal pre-K bill, but they passed this stupid checklist. I do want to give a shout out to, again, Tennessee is one of those states where there's only like 4 Democrats in the state legislature, but one of them is a state representative named Afton Bain. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She actually tried to amend the bill to get rid of all those whereas clauses at the beginning, which said like, you know, all the data shows that kids with married parents do better in life. I want to show you what she proposed to change this bill to, okay? And it's just all the whereas clauses. She wasn't even changing the success sequence. It was the preamble she wanted to change. And just look at how glorious this is. This is from Afton Bain. And look at this. Let's delete what they gave you and substitute this instead. Whereas millennial women have come of age in an era marked by wage stagnation, skyrocketing student debt, unaffordable housing, and the rising costs of childcare and healthcare, all of which make marriage and family formation increasingly out of reach. True. Whereas over the past 45 years, the decline in children living with married parents reflects not a rejection of family values, but the growing economic instability that delays or deters marriage and childbearing. Yeah. Whereas nearly a quarter of children today are raised outside of marriage, a statistic driven less by personal choice and more by structural barriers that make partnership and parenting financially precarious. Whereas while children raised in stable, well-supported families tend to thrive, yeah, our focus must be on creating conditions where all families, regardless of marital status, have access to opportunity, security, and community support. I want to keep reading because I love this. Whereas millennial women understand that marriage alone does not guarantee economic stability, especially in a landscape of wage inequality, rising medical costs, and inadequate family leave policies. Whereas millennial women face a workforce that often punishes caregiving and undervalues women's labor, making the prospect of balancing work, marriage, and parenting an overwhelming challenge. There's just a little more here. Whereas millennials carry more student loan debt than any previous generation, delaying milestones like home ownership, marriage, and childbearing well into their 30s and beyond. Whereas the high cost of childcare, Lack of affordable healthcare and insufficient parental support policies have led many women today to delay or forego having children. Despite narratives that tie personal success to marriage and childbearing, millennial women are redefining what it means to flourish, prioritizing financial independence, community connection, and personal fulfillment. And finally, whereas building a society where family formation is a real choice, not an economic gamble, requires addressing the root causes of inequality, investing in paid leave, childcare, healthcare, and housing, and creating fair economic conditions for all. Now, here's the stupid 4-rule checklist that Republicans want to pass. That is a wonderful amendment to this bill. And guess what happened after she suggested it? Republicans shot it down 72-22. They're like, shut up telling us these facts. We have the solution. It's a 4-step checklist. But again, what does that show you? It shows you Republicans don't want to fix the problem. They want to redefine the problem and then act like they have the solutions for them. I think the only thing that surprised me about their success sequence is that they never said you have to go to church. If you asked me what I thought the 4 Republican rules would be for success, I would have guessed going to church, and a Christian one, not one of those brown ones, would have totally been on the list. But somehow that one didn't make the cut. Maybe because they didn't want to deal with any church-state separation pushback on this thing. Anyway, I would also say it should not be lost on anyone that the president of the United States and the head of the Republican Party, for lack of better terms, is someone who allegedly paid someone to take his SATs in high school, who is currently on his 3rd marriage, who ignored his children when they were younger. So, I don't know, is he a success? Is that the role model you want? And the shadow president, Elon Musk, has at least 14 kids with 4 different women, and he doesn't have relationships with damn near any of them. And there was a Wall Street Journal article this week about how he uses Twitter as a personal dating app so he can just impregnate women whose profiles he follows. Is that who Republicans want kids to be like? Are they successful the way Republicans think success ought to be defined? It is deeply ironic that for all the talk from conservatives about how we can't teach comprehensive American history that emphasizes slavery because it might make white kids feel bad, they have no problem telling children of single parents, for example, that they're probably screwed. So the Associated Press says that bills like this have been proposed in states like Texas, Kentucky, and Ohio, and a bill just like this has been signed into law in Utah. So that's what they're up to in Tennessee. What questions you got here? Enters into marriage. Funny, they didn't specify it has to be a straight marriage. Again, I think they wanted to avoid a lawsuit, so they didn't specify anything that might set it up for failure. So they tried to make it super broad. It's just stupid, but it's not illegally stupid. Equal parts Christian nationalism and capitalist indoctrination. Yeah, apparently the only way you can be successful is if you have a lot of money. There's no possible way you can be poor and happy. Are you kidding me? No, that's not what Jesus wanted. So they're going to promote comprehensive sex ed to discourage teenage pregnancy, right? Right? Of course not. No, that would help kids make responsible decisions, and they're not interested in actually helping people. So nope, that one's not on the agenda. Emotional intelligence is so important in relationships. From what I've seen, it's difficult to come by those in super religious conservative circles. Yeah, anecdotally, I agree with you. I don't know. I can speak for myself. I don't think I knew myself for well into my 20s and then some. And even now, look, I probably think whatever I did last week was stupid. But again, having some self-awareness and understanding what the rest of the world is like, I think that does go a long way to helping you understand your place in it, the sort of person you want to spend your life with, what you want to do with your life. You can't do that without having certain experiences and even being in relationships and things like that. It's really hard to come by that sort of emotional intelligence. And so if you're just telling kids you're better off getting married than trying to figure out what you're looking for in a partner, which is going to take some time, That's just bad advice. That's not advice I would give to anyone, but I'm also not a Republican who just wants to check off some box and pretend like I'm helping people. Funny how some European countries don't necessarily participate in marriage, and yet Europeans do pretty well. The quality of life markers are always higher than the US. No kidding. I mean, if you ask any other country that seems to have a lot of happy people in it, what's the key to happiness? They're not going to give you that list of 4 things. Like, no country wants the American healthcare system. No country wants the way we underfund our public education system. We have a great education system, but not the way we're funding it right now. And the higher education system, which is one of the best in the world, what are Republicans doing to it? They're trying to dismantle it as we speak by taking away their funding. Over 50% of marriage ends in divorce, and 100% of divorces begin with a marriage. Therefore, by their own logic, marriage is the leading cause of divorce. Maybe we should ban marriage. I mean, if you want to prevent divorces, that is definitely a thing you could do. But again, this idea that the only way to be, I mean, this is an argument I remember hearing back in the day, because I'm old, about when marriage equality was some fight that a lot of people didn't understand. And you had to fight to get people to say, yeah, it's okay for gay people to get married. And one of the questions from some gay activists and critics was like, why is this the pinnacle? Because having civil rights and having equal rights is worth fighting for. Marriage is not necessarily like the top of the food chain there. So there's a lot of emphasis. They're not saying gay marriage is wrong, same-sex marriage is wrong. They were saying, wow, that's a weird thing to be the focus of everything we're working for, even though it's a good thing. But this is the point. Like, marriage in itself doesn't mean you're going to be better off. Ask anyone who has parents who just, all you remember, your memories of your parents are of them fighting all the time. That's not a good thing necessarily. Like, having married parents who don't like each other is not better for you than having divorced parents who are living their own lives and very happy separately. You know what I mean? They always leave out competent, humane, kind, caring, not abusive when they say kids need parents in the home. No kidding, right? Having parents who actually want you there and want to play with you and spend time with you and don't hurt you, like, that's what you actually want. Having like a marriage certificate, which is the only thing they're caring about in this story, that is not this, like, that's not a hallmark of a successful marriage. That's easy to get. They have a point about kids from broken homes. I came from a broken home, and here I am hanging out online with a bunch of heathens. I mean, buddy, you failed. You're watching me. What are you doing with your life?